AutoX is turning 18 and we're celebrating adulthood in style. No, not just with James Bond's chariot of choice or a drop-top prancing horse, but with 50 of the hottest machines launched in the past year. And we're going to whittle them down to the top 10 to tell you which ones are the best of 2024. So, let the games begin.
So those were some glimpses of two action-packed days at the Buddh International Circuit, India's fastest racetrack. And we had almost 30 two-wheelers to test during those 2 days to shoot. And now, after all the action has passed away, it's time to take a bit of a chill pill, sit down and discuss how those days went. And to start off that conversation, I've got our assistant editor, Shivank Bhatt. Shivank, two action-packed days, how were they for you?
Of course, motorcycles, BIC, it's always fun, even if you have the slowest motorcycle.
Yeah.
A lot of corners, we do it at the short loop of the circuit. We don't use the entire circuit. So that's fun. That's really fun. Of course, it's a more technical section. So you have a lot of corners, high-speed corners. So whichever bike you're riding, it's always fun. It can be slow, it can be super fast. But I think, again, time just flies when you're riding motorcycles at the BIC.
Yeah. And I think we should start off this conversation by talking about how we conduct the Best of 2024 AutoX Awards jury round. And what are the procedures and processes that go behind the scene to determine the winner. Because while we will talk about motorcycles, and as you can probably guess, there's a very nice list of motorcycles and scooters to get to. But as jurors, whoever you see in this video, including me, including Shivank and the other people, we are all jury members, and cumulatively, all of us, it's a very interesting fact, the jury for AutoX Awards 2024 cumulatively has over 100 years of experience being brought to the table. So that's a lot of testing, lot of kilometers put on the seat, and when we all come together, then we decide which one becomes the best of 2024. So to start off, firstly, what's our criteria? What does a two-wheeler need to be in order to be considered as a contender for the best of 2024?
So first off, it's again because our awards are in October, right? That's when we start testing. That's when we start to do our jury round.
Yeah.
So it's basically an October to October cycle. October to September 30th, I'd say that's the cycle that we follow. So all the cars and bikes which are launched, in this case, all the bikes or two-wheelers that are launched in this time frame, they all qualify. Of course, they all have to be all new, or they'll have to have very heavy modifications in that sense, or heavy updates, I'd say significant.
Yeah, so facelifts are a no-go.
Yeah, facelifts are a no. So if it's the same platform, same engine, it's just a tweak here and there, then we don't include them. Of course, it's up to a personal call if we think it is a motorcycle. Let's say, I'll give you a quick example. Let's say the TVS Apache RR310, right? It is technically the same motorcycle, but the number of updates that it has received this year, those wings, the engine has completely changed, internals,
higher power
output, a lot of electronics. So that makes it a completely different motorcycle than what it used to be.
Yeah. So then in those situations, we make a bit of an exception.
Then it's a bit of a gray area, and then it's our call. So we think if it qualifies as a product that has significant updates, so we include it. We only have 3 awards. We don't do this is the best variant, this is the best super sport, this is the best import, this is blah blah blah, right? We just do 3 awards. And everything is scored on the same parameter, right? It's the same parameters. We have 10 parameters, which you'll see on the screen. I can't, on the top of my head, I can't just tell them all, but it's usually ride and handling, your design, your X factor, your value for money, which is the most important.
And to explain how these, just to add context, how these scores make up for each other. So like, for example, we have a bike like the ZX6R. So it will score very highly in lap time because obviously it's stupendously fast, but it'll lose out in value for money because it's also really expensive.
And practicality also, you can't ride a ZX6R.
And something like the Jupiter on the other hand, it'll be like really slow,
Yeah.
or for obvious reasons,
Yeah.
as compared to the ZX6R.
Yeah.
But it will score well in practicality, it will score well in value for money. And so there are multiple parameters that cover up for each other, helping us decide.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think you've seen it over years that
Yeah.
it evens out in
Yeah.
the end.
And one more addition, like you mentioned, we don't have 10,000 categories to give out. On the other hand, our terminology that we follow is just best of.
Yeah.
So it simply says best of 2024. And that's because...
And these are the top 3 bikes that, which we think are the best of 20.
Yeah, so because that's
Simple as that.
our scoring set is so thorough, and we have a diverse jury on hand, a lot of experience. We discuss, we dissect, and then the best part is that we average out all the scores. So any kind of bias that we have. So for example, if I love classic motorcycles and if somebody else loves adventure bikes and somebody loves sport bikes, their biases are averaged out. So you actually get a true winner per se. So that's what we do. Anything else you would like to add?
And then, yeah, we also have one more award, which is the Performance Bike of the Year.
Yeah.
And that's, again, straightforward. The fastest bike to turn up at the track wins that award.
So yes, that was everything you need to know about the autoX Awards. Best of 2024. We've come to a very action-packed year. We had a great lineup. Shivang, first thing first, now that we've done talking about the serious stuff, let's talk motorcycles and scooters. Fantastic lineup we pulled together this year. Great bikes, great competitions and great comparisons and whatnot. When you saw that lineup, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
I think that was after a long time when we had bikes which are meant for track, right? And I was really excited, especially for, let's say, the ZX6R was there, Aprilia RS457, especially the fully fed motorcycles. Even I'd say something like the R1300 GS, it's on the surface, it's an ADV, but it is very sporty now. So I even enjoyed riding it on the track. So when I saw the entire lineup, I was like, okay, cool, we're going to have a lot of fun on the track and all that. So
it's serious work. I mean, it's a difficult job testing like almost 30 motorcycles at a racetrack. But somebody's got to do it, right?
Yes, of course.
So we managed. But which was the first set of two-wheelers that you would go for the key of?
Interesting question again. But again, it's usually the scooters. I think I loved the Rista because large saddle.
Yeah.
Right?
We actually, sorry, I'm going to cut you in. We had two-wheelers with very large seats, right?
Yeah.
The Rista, and let's not forget the Freedom 125.
Yeah, Freedom 125, exactly.
Like between those two scooters, I'm not saying you should, but you can carry like 10 people.
Yeah. I think I also enjoyed riding the Guerrilla as well because very accessible. Like Himalayan is great, but Himalayan, of course, it's an ADV or whatever it is. But completely off topic, I absolutely loved the C04 as well. It looks so big and bulky, but the moment you ride that thing, it is actually a big Activa, I'd say, in terms of it's in terms of accessibility. It's no different than riding an Activa. Of course, a lot of electronics, latest gadget and all that, but when you are on that thing, it feels as easy to ride as the Activa. It doesn't feel its weight at all. So I absolutely love riding the C04 because, of course, it has that keyless thing. So that was a little fidgety, but otherwise, that was the thing that I was, kept going back to.
Right. Something that you didn't enjoy so much? Something that left you wanting a bit more?
I think, again, this is something where both of us will differ. I was expecting a little more from the BSA Gold Star. I'd heard a lot of great things. And I think it's probably setting wrong expectations because all of the people, they said, it's a big single cylinder engine, but it's not as bad or the vibrations aren't as bad or, whatever pronounced or whatever it is. But it had vibrations, right? Like it's basically...
So just to give you an idea, because we'll soon swap seats, you'll see the whole thing. I really like retro bikes and I like the Gold Star. That's why he's saying we'll differ. But obviously he's wrong because he doesn't know what good retros are. Those are good vibrations, my friend.
Good vibrations were on the Aprilia RS457 because it's a twin. It's vibey, it's Italian, and you have...
I think that's where we differ because I found it to be quite vibey as well.
So RS457, when you ride it on the track, that's what you call the character of the engine because it's 270-degree firing order. it feels like a big V-twin. In fact, it's a parallel twin, but still it has that. All the bikes are parallel twins. I think the Ninja 500, the R3, but the Aprilia makes that special sound, special vibrations also.
So final question. 2 great days at BIC. What's your memory, the biggest memory that you take away? Is that one special moment for you?
I think for me, it's a tie between, I'd say, the Apache RR310 and the R1300 GS. I loved the Aprilia, but that was expected, right? I loved the Aprilia. That was probably the highlight for me overall as a motorcycle, but it was expected.
No, but like, I'm not asking the motorcycle. I'm saying the best memory that you had.
The best memory I probably had was with the R1300 GS, where I was thinking, okay, this is silly the way this motorcycle goes, or how much you can lean that motorcycle around corners, or the confidence it gives you. And I was thinking, maybe if I buy this bike, you can do track days with it as well. So you can, I said it in my print story as well, that's a motorcycle that you can race on a Sunday and then go exploring the Himalayas on a Monday. So I think for me, that was the takeaway from the track test or the jury round.
Fantastic. So now that your jury part has come to an end, even I was part of the jury, as I mentioned earlier. But would you mind swapping seats with me?
Yes.
And then you can ask me some nice questions and be very kind to me in return as well.
Not nice, but probably some difficult questions. Let's see.
All right, let's go.
Yeah. Okay, so first things first, we had a lot of kick-ass motorcycles, I'd say track motorcycles, which are suited for the track.
Yeah.
So, there are 5 of them at least, which were just meant for the track. So just tell me, probably give me one liner on each of the bikes.
Okay.
So it's just, maybe let's start with the biggest of them all, like the ZX6R.
Here, I'll request you to let me talk a bit more about it.
Yeah.
Because the 6R is beautiful. Like, there's nothing wrong with that bike. The moment I sat on it, I still remember the first thing, right? I'm all suited up and full focus mode. And I'm like, why are the handlebars like this? That's odd. But once on the track, you want to hang off. Everything feels so natural. I absolutely loved it, and very methodical. And you can, if you're someone who wants to chase those 1010s, you can do that on this motorcycle. I remember having absolute blast. It always felt in the right gear, in the right part of the power band. Always very forgiving. I remember once going through the Paragola, I had a big slide, but it was good. I remember the other crew that's sitting here, they would know. They saw that happen and they were like, oh, that was fun. I was like, but on the bike, I never felt like I was out of control. But very quickly, I'll give you one-liners about the other ones. The RS457, mad. I mean, it's like a wild bull, as one of our colleagues mentioned earlier. It's like a wild bull, but that's not my cup of tea, because the 6R, I like that more, but the Aprilia.
The 6R is probably a precision tool in that regard.
Yeah, I liked the R3 quite a lot, but it was a bit underwhelming because it shows its age. The RR310 continues to be fantastic, but it's just old now. I mean, I would actually put this question out to the public. What were you doing when the first RR310 came out? We did this question in our office, and somebody in our office was in school. Can you imagine that? So it's been a while. This is when the first RR310 broke cover. My pick of the 400-ish cc fed bikes was a Ninja 500, which is slightly larger than 400, but I liked it. Very forgiving, very nice, looks bulky, looks like a big bike, and is very reminiscent of what the R3 used to be like. Yeah, like 10 years ago or something. So that's my take.
Okay, now coming to the other end of the spectrum, we also had a couple of ADVs. I'd say probably we just had one couple, which is the R1300 GS and the Himalayan.
Yeah.
Personally, I was quite impressed with both the bikes on the track as well. Yeah. What's your feedback?
The R1300 GS begs belief. Like you wouldn't believe what that motorcycle is capable of. There's a really nice photo of you almost hanging off fully from the bike, and that doesn't look like someone who's riding an ADV. So I mean, it's in a league of its own. The Himalayan I love. I mean, we had the Gorilla 450 as well. Although Gorilla is the newer bike, it does cable management better, for example. Yeah. But the Himalayan. Oh, what a chassis! That suspension. I think it's a bike for keeps. It rides like a street naked. It can off-road like a proper adventure, and it's a good city bike. I think Himalayan is fantastic on all fronts. I really love that chassis balance.
Great. Again, coming back to the most important question, biggest disappointment and biggest surprise.
Biggest disappointment. What would that be? I don't think there was a disappointment, to be honest. They were
Not
all...
the EVs?
Oh yeah.
Unless
yeah,
you
yeah.
didn't ride any.
No. There were a couple of them.
Underwhelming. Maybe it's not disappointing as such, but maybe something is that could have been
so
better.
underwhelming. I think the CE02, and like you can lash out all you want, but I was like, what is the point of this thing? I mean, as a fashion statement, I get it, but I mean, a fashion statement with an electric scooter, might as well buy the CE04 because you clearly have the money if you're considering the CE02.
So what was the biggest shock? Which was like the most impressive motorcycle or scooter for that matter?
The Jupiter.
Wow.
Mr. Sensible, right here. Because I really liked the
I
Jupiter.
didn't see you doing the lap times on the Jupiter, but anyway.
But it was my choice of wheels to go
Yes.
from point A to point B.
Yes,
I was
of
like,
course.
where is the Jupiter?
Yeah.
I want to take that. And most practical. I think it looks nice. I think I'm the only one in this video who's going to talk about a Jupiter. But there you have it. I think finally we have something other than the Activa to think about.
Yeah.
Even though Activa I don't like so much, but.
Yeah.
Jupiter looks nice, designed well, rides well, good space, slightly expensive, but I think it covers all the basics. If you're looking for a new scooter, that's my new default recommendation. That's how much
And I think, there's a very fine point to be made here because a lot of people think because we are on the track, we have big bikes, we're riding big bikes and all that. But a lot of people don't realize it. Behind the scenes, we are riding these, mass market scooters or motorcycles because they're more accessible, they're easy to ride around. And probably that's how we end up judging them because if you have to take a 6 hour on the track, you have to be in your leathers, it's so hot. You can only do so much on the track. Yeah. But if you have to go in and out of the track, to shoot locations, so you're using a Jupiter, you're using a Freedom event, right? Yeah. All these small bikes. Yeah. So ultimately you probably end up having more seat time. On those machines. So it's not that they are neglected on the track, I'd say, because a lot of people think, you're on the track, so probably you didn't pay enough attention to all these bikes.
Yeah, that's not the case.
But I think that's...
I mean, I would love to ferry crew around in a 6 hour and give
but
them the ride of their life.
Impractical, right? So that's what I'm saying, that on the track, outside the track, we also ride all of these products.
So Jupiter, sure. I really, really like that scooter, yeah.
Okay, so if you have to give me your top 5, like I said in the car video as well, we give you 5 trophies, right? You pick your favorites. Not 5 actually, on the bikes it's just 3. Yeah. 3 plus 1 performance, we kind of know it's ZX6R, right? But what's the
top 3?
Top 3 for you. And why also, I'd ask.
Number 1, the motorcycle that you forgot, my friend, is the BSA Gold Star 650.
Okay, yeah, that's actually... Yeah.
I love classic bikes. I like retro bikes. I mean, I'm the kind of person... So I'll share this small anecdote. We were all sitting together once we submitted our scoring to our editor-in-chief, to Bell. And then we are supposed to talk it out, right? Do reasoning with each other. Yeah. My reasoning was, I loved the fact that it has a halogen bulb and not an LED bulb. Yeah. Like, that's how much I like my classic bikes. And I think I love what Royal Enfield is doing today, but every other classic bike is a Royal Enfield. Finally, we have something that's slightly different, true to its nature. I mean, there's nothing to write home about, but it's a very good feeling motorcycle. It made me want to come back and ride it again. I mean, I really, really enjoyed the Gold Star 650. So obviously, that's one that gets it. The other, I would give it to the Jupiter. As I mentioned, you know the reasons why. It's very practical. Of course, the third one will have to go to the Himalayan because it skews the scales in its favor wherever you put it. So yeah, those are my top 3.
That's great. Cool. So we'll come to know if he's right or wrong, right? In a very short while.
Yeah.
And I think that's the end of it.
Yeah, I think now I'll take the nice seat back, get hold of other jury members, and throw them to the deep end.
Yes.
Now I have with me Karan Mathur.
Hi guys.
Now he absolutely enjoyed being part of the AutoX Awards 2024?
It was a stellar few days,
It was a
if I do say so myself.
So, right off the bat, what was your highlight of the 2 days that you were there?
That I went ham on the motorcycles that I did want to test, especially the RS457. I love that motorcycle. Put it in any scenario, I think that is one of the most complete bikes that I've ridden, and I really wanted to test it out without any limits, and I think I got the opportunity. Every time I came back in, he changed bikes, and I went out again in the RS457, emptied the tanks twice, and it was an awesome time.
So, there's a question I've been asking a lot of our jury members, and I will ask throughout this video as well. I probably know the answer, but which was the motorcycle that caught your eye first?
I think caught my eye in terms of design were the BMW scooters.
Oh, really? It was not the RS457?
I mean, because it didn't catch my eye because I've already seen it. It didn't. It was there. I wanted to ride it, but what caught my eye and what I really wanted to try out were the C04, not the 2 exactly, the C04 most likely.
So, talking about the track experience, testing over 20, almost 30 motorcycles and scooters in a day can be a bit of a challenge. So, as a juror, how do you approach that? What goes in your head, and what's your approach to ranking and scoring all these products?
I think first and foremost, look at your segments. You separate the segments, the motorcycles and scooters by segments, and if you want to go further, by CC as well. So I think that's the first thing, and then you try out the direct competitors back to back. When you get out on track, it's when you push it to the limit, you find out how the chassis reacts, how the steering is, how light it is, how it delivers that power, how well it keeps that power. So I can give you an example, the Ampere Nexus ST. So it felt agile, it felt light, but during the whole thing, what I gathered from it, the throttle transitions were a bit jerky. It was decently fast, you could get it up to speed, but that throttle was a bit of a on-off switch. And for me, like if that happens on track, even in real-world conditions, in stop-and-go traffic, I think that also plays a hindrance. So just small example of how characteristics which you found on track can translate to real-world conditions.
So one thing I would want you to share with our viewers is, because we have a lot of jury members which are giving out scoring and critiquing all these machines. So it's really important to know what kind of a motorcyclist are you? Because that is where you're coming from. That's your idea of motorcycling, and that's how you'll judge the machines. So what's a perfect idea of motorcycling for you?
Simple. I'm an experience-based journalist. I like motorcycles which have that drama and feel, which give you that warm tingling sensation in your stomach when you're on that ragged edge. Obviously, if I had to segregate it, I'm a track guy and an equal part off-road guy. I think the off-road part is just started to come in. I think that's why I'm bringing it. That obsession is just taking over that little bit. It's more accessible. Track is not that cheap.
Especially the both.
So that's why this opportunity was so great. So many motorcycles back to back in the best circuit in India. I think that is something which you can't put money on.
It's a difficult job. So somebody has to do it. But one thing I want to ask is, now that you've shared what your idea of motorcycling is, were there machines that delivered and scratched that itch for you? Of course, I'm guessing the 6R and the RS457 did.
6. I was going to go for the RS457 first. 6R was so methodical. It does everything right, but you kind of have to be on it. You have to, if you're riding it fast, you have to be methodical. You have to brake right. You have to turn in right, and it's forgiving compared to other super sport motorcycles, but in this range, it was the most track focused. So you had to be on it.
And but other than the RS,
other than that,
6R.
let's get over the 6R and the RS457. And then I think the ones which stood out, the Himalayan was great. It was a surprising motorcycle. So as I said, experience based. That brought a little something different to my experience on the track. The Himalayan was a surprise. The Guerrilla 450, I hadn't tried that out. And the Himalayan is great, but the Guerrilla 450 is also just that little bit of extra
magic sauce.
Magic sauce you have, and compliant suspension, really communicative chassis, great power and just the right ergonomics. So all of that. Then one thing which I'd like to talk about is the experience of riding the C04. It's big, it's bulky, it's long, but it holds its own on a track.
Yeah.
It sticks to the road surface and it tracks this line, whether it be straight or through a corner. I think
you can really attack the corners.
you can really attack it. You have. There is a lot of distance between the front and rear tires.
Yeah.
You have to get over that because your front turns in and then there's a minute millisecond
Lag, yeah.
which it takes for the rear to follow. But yeah, it was fun. The scooters were all light, fun and agile. And then of course the smaller motorcycles which were there. I think we had a really good selection of bikes and
Yeah, it
scooters.
was. I mean, at first glance, it makes your life a bit more difficult seeing that particular lineup of machines.
If you had to ask me if there was one motorcycle which you asked me that I'm not, okay, I don't want to be harsh and say this, I wasn't looking forward to that, but something which didn't really scratch an itch to take it out on the track, NS400Z.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So for me, even on the road, wherever I did test it out, it's a great motorcycle, but it's nothing special.
Price tag.
Yeah, but like
But
I'm not buying it.
But
That's
yeah,
the problem.
I mean, if the price tag is the most special bit,
Yeah,
I mean,
because if I'm not buying it, the price tag is special if I'm buying it.
yeah.
And not exactly on the opposite end of the spectrum, but somewhere in between was the Maverick. I first started out off-road, then I had it in the city. Both short ratio gearbox, snappy power delivery. It was fun vehicle. And here too, because we had the short loop, it was great. But I feel if we had the full BIC, it would have lost steam quite a bit. Because in the top end, it does kind of lose out.
Talking about loving things,
Yeah.
what was your most loving memory once the 2 days of hectic filming, testing, everything ended? What's that one memory that you take away from the best of 2024 jury round?
It was when we were doing the shoot for the magazine. So you had to get out one motorcycle after the other to wheelie it or take it through a corner, and just that one by one exciting, snappy action shots. I think that was quite cool, and I love doing wheelies. And like
It just happens.
doing back to back.
Your hand slips on the clutch.
Like the throttle goes. I'm like, oh no.
Oh, yeah. Oh no, I'm just carrying the wheelie. Yeah, tough love.
Yeah,
tough
tough.
love.
Life is tight.
Life is tough. All right. Thank you so much, Karan, for
Yeah.
joining in.
No rapid question.
Uh,
RS457.
All right, now it's time to move on to our next juror of the motorcycle grid. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is Akash Paul. Akash, this is your first year.
Yes, it is.
Now, I know how that feels because I was there last year. But how has it been for you?
Well, it was definitely fantastic. It was definitely very exciting. And those couple of days when we were testing were like, it was like a shot of adrenaline.
Yeah.
Wherein everything was in like hyper mode, but also I was completely enjoying it. And to make it even better, you were on the PIC, which is for a lot of us our favorite place because that track, oh my god.
Yeah. So we had a lot of motorcycles
Yes.
and scooters on the lineup. Now I want to scratch your brain bit by bit. I want to start off with the start of the day. You came into the Buddha International Circuit. You saw that lineup. Which one was the first two-wheeler that you wanted to go for?
I mean, it's a very boring and a very obvious answer, but it was the ZX6R because one, it's a big bike, and two, it was in that Kawasaki green, which was like shining so bright.
Yeah.
So definitely my eyes immediately went onto the 6R and I was like, oh, this in this setting is like a match made in heaven.
Expecting the ZX6R is a bit obvious. What is the second motorcycle that caught
The
your eye?
second motorcycle, again, it was the other Kawasaki, but the Ninja 500. And that is because since the time we did our epic road trip, that was the motorcycle that I really latched onto. That was the motorcycle which I felt spoke to me the most. Because yes, it's not an out-and-out track machine and it's not the cheapest one. But what they managed to do well, the Kawasaki boys and girls, is that they've made a package which is so good in almost all kinds of conditions. And that's what I usually look out for. The people who have been watching our channel will sort of also know that I usually go for machines which are, well balanced and can do most of the things. So that is one more machine I was really like looking forward to riding, and yeah, I had fun with it.
So clearly Akash is drawn to the faster machines on the grid. So speaking of which,
Yes.
we had 5 of perhaps the most wanted fully faired motorcycles in the country, all lined up together. How was your take on testing all of them out, and which one stood out for you?
Well, okay, the RS457 I've ridden, but at Curry, so I knew it was going to be good, and objectively, yes, it was the best motorcycle on the track out of these 5. It's just so naturally aligned with a racetrack that you cannot really go wrong with it. Like, you have to be really stupid to make an error on that motorcycle, and if you're skilled, you can do some crazy stuff with it. I was actually quite surprised with the RR310 because yes, the winglets are there. I don't think they're doing much at slower speeds, but through the corners and all, I felt it was, much more put together. Not that the previous RR310s were bad, they were always like great. I've had the pleasure of, I think, riding almost every iteration on the track. So this one, I did feel like there's a step forward, and I was like, wow, they're still down on capacity, but they've made up for it with features, with the handling, and with how it looks, because it still looks quite good. So that would be my standout, I would say.
All right. The question I also want to ask you, though, is since it's your first time,
Okay.
and we have another bike juror whose first time it is here at the autoX Awards, but I'll ask that question to him as well. And my question is, how difficult was it critiquing such a fabulous lot of motorcycles? Because that's what we do. We have a lot of parameters, as you would have understood by now in the video, where all of us, while we enjoy the experience of riding these machines, we also have to come back and rate every single one of them. So how was that experience for you?
That was progressively challenging, I would say. The reason why I say that is because at first you think, a rough order in your head, what motorcycle is good and what is not. But when you actually sit with those parameters and you start filling in the blanks, that's when you realize, okay, this machine is good in this aspect, but then you have another machine which is also good, but how do they compare? And then you have a third machine in the mix, and then you keep on doing that, and you have like 20 plus machines, and now you have to balance all the scores. And another interesting thing which I found out, because this was my first time, was talking with the rest of the jury members and then sort of debating, why did jury member A rate a motorcycle this much in this aspect? And sometimes you think, oh no, your rating is like the definitive one. But then you speak to, the other people, and they're like, they might bring up a point which you might not have thought of, or something, that you maybe overlooked. So I also like that collaborative process of, coming to a conclusion of, what the best product is for the year. So yeah, it was a little challenging just to wrap my head around all those digits and all those numbers and just, quantifying, what is what, but also very satisfying, I would say. In a way.
So while scoring, was there any surprise for you in the mix?
For me, I would say the Himalayan was, I don't know if I would call it a surprise, because at first thought, yes, I did not really think about it as, a motorcycle I would rate highly, because, I have all these newer and fancy motorcycles. But that's the beauty of bringing all the machines from the past year together and then sort of scoring them, that you realize that, maybe there was a golden gem hidden much further back in the year. And the Himalayan, when I actually sat and thought about it, I was like, this fits right into, my kitty of motorcycles that can do everything. And the Himalayan, with its versatility, was surely surprising, how high it scored in my personal rankings.
Right. Last but not the least, now that you've scored the motorcycles, and we will find out which one wins, I want to understand from you as a juror, what makes a machine capable of being a contender for the title of Best of 2024?
Oh, wow. So, again, going back to what I've been saying, that you need to do a lot of things very well. But apart from that, I think there are certain things which transcend motorcycle categories like ADVs, super sports, scooters and all. Things like a good design, things like good build quality, things like good engineering. Because you could have an ADV which is, for example, you've got a big engine, you've got big tires, big suspension. But if it's not fun to ride, if it's not got the basics right of the refinement of the power delivery, then it's not going to score well. So there are certain aspects like being value for money and all of those things. They are independent of the category the machine is in. So if you manage to get those basics right, then you have a chance of scoring high.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
I'll see you all in the next video perhaps.
Yeah, and now we move on to the next juror. All right, now we have with us Mr. Naven Sony.
Hello people.
Welcome to the jury of autoX Best of 2024.
Thank you so much.
This is your first time being part of our jury awards. Naveen is the newest member in our editorial team, but by no means is he less on the number of kilometers that he's clocked on a motorcycle. So this year, first impressions, how was it?
So, in simple words, it was fantastic. It was at such a beautiful place, BIC Buddha International Circuit. We had like a lineup of about 50 vehicles over there. So, things were great, for me at least.
Now, so far I've asked all of our jurors as to what motorcycle stood out for them at first glance. But by now I've learned my lesson. For everyone, it's the ZX6R.
Of course.
After the ZX6R, which motorcycle were you drawn towards most?
Okay, so after ZX6R, when I had a look at the BMW CE04, I thought that this is something I'm definitely going to ride.
Yeah.
And it was actually worth. It was actually worth giving a shot because things priced at that bracket.
15 lakhs for a
yeah,
scooter.
you usually don't get to ride them on roads regularly.
Yeah.
So I was very excited to ride that one, and also the Freedom 125 because that machine was different from anything else on the track.
Yeah.
So it was a CNG motorcycle, and it was a commuter, but very different kind of commuter. Like the design, you can see it's very unique and different from any other 125cc we have seen in the market before. The one thing about that motorcycle, I felt like the seat height. So it's a bit tall, as any other regular commuter at 825 mm, I guess, if I'm not wrong. So that, for me at least, was a bit challenge. I'm a bit short. So
short and light. So Naveen is the Danny Pedrosa of our crew. He's the lightest one. And when he rides to someone who's decently sized, someone like me, we've shared that history.
Manav knows because we have ridden together on tracks.
Yeah, and I would lose out on all the time on the straight because Naveen would just be flying past me.
But he used to get like a good advantage in corners.
Yeah, thankfully. So coming back to the experience, motorcycling in itself involves a lot of kinds of motorcyclists, right?
Yeah.
We all vary in our tastes and preferences. So for the viewers out there, as a juror for Best of 2024, what kind of a motorcyclist are you?
Okay, so this, I guess, will be the toughest question you have asked among all the questions you've asked today.
Yeah.
So I personally like to ride on tracks. So super sport motorcycles are my absolute favorite. I am a very old owner of that CBR 150. So that was my first sort of sports bike. And I bought it just because I like super sport segment. So I quite enjoyed riding that ZX6R, Kawasaki Ninja 500, and absolutely the Aprilia RS 457. So second, but apart from the track, I like off-roading a lot.
All right. So having ridden all of these, what makes a motorcycle best of 2024? What do you think is the criteria, very quickly, on the things that you hold of the highest importance that they need to nail in order to become a contender for the coveted title that we're giving out?
So, as we evaluate all the motorcycles on different aspects, that one thing I actually liked about the format in autoX and enjoyed it as well. Like in the last, how we discussed about all the things and all. So that was a good part.
And that discussion, like what Naveen is referring to, is the scoring that we give out. And a lot of us agree and disagree at the same time.
There were a lot of like heated moments in between, to be honest.
Yeah, in a good way.
Yeah,
I mean,
in a good way.
We all respect each other by only throwing chairs and tables at each other. But otherwise, we are very respectful.
Yeah, like Manav likes like classic motorcycles a lot. So and me, I'm personally fan of sports performance. Akash in our team, he is a big fan of sports performance. A few people like off-road motorcycles a bit too much.
Yeah, and obviously all of them are wrong. It's the classic bikes is what you should get.
No. Mano was the only one in the favor of classic motorcycles in the
taste,
jury
you know,
team.
it's taste. It's an acquired taste. But no, Naveen, it was fantastic having you. Before I wrap up this segment, at the end of the day, which was the set of keys that you would go for and absolutely steal that bike? And yes, that does not include the ZX6R.
Oh my God. Even after telling you that the Super Sports is my favorite.
Yeah, no, because you have, okay, so for Super Sports, okay, so I'll frame this question for you. We got
can I go for the BMW CE04? At least I can
Yeah,
sell
of course,
it out
you're
for 15
stealing,
lakhs.
so I mean, you can do what you like.
Yeah.
All right.
So no, not that's not like if I have to ride that machine later.
I mean,
Or
if you want to sell it again for an uptake, you can do that.
For selling BMW CE04 for sure.
Yeah.
You're talking about among motorcycles, right?
Yeah, and the two-wheeler.
Otherwise, I'll take Aston Martin and
wow,
make a lot of money
and use that money to buy probably the entire lineup.
Yeah, exactly.
So on that brilliant thought.
No, on a serious note, I won't like to ride the ZX6R in everyday traffic condition. I come from Noida, like 15 kilometers from here almost. So I genuinely don't want to ride ZX6R every day in that traffic. I would definitely love to own the Ninja 500.
Oh.
That's a very versatile and very, very refined machine. You can use it like anywhere easily. And in fact, the seat height is like pretty adequate for all sort of aesthetics and all sort of all kind of shapes of people.
And it looks nice as well.
And it looks nice as well.
All right, so I'm going to wrap this segment up. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for joining in. We'll move on.